Yeah, I was just gonna say, I was laughing. You said like small T trauma, which I get. Having read the book, like I get what you mean, but at the same time, I always think of like high school in your teenage years. I have a bunch of nieces and nephews, and the oldest one is 16, so she's going into her junior year of high school, which is wild to think about. But I think so much about back when I was that age, like having my first girlfriend or like experiencing my first what I thought was like heartbreak, or like these interactions I had with people that were either friends or acquaintances or teachers, and like things that I wouldn't have thought twice about back then, saying like I still remember now at 37, like they're stuck in my brain, like holy shit, I can't believe you said that, or like wow, what were you thinking? And so while you're saying it's like small traumas, I think because at that age we're all experiencing these huge emotions like, for the first time, like and trying to figure out how to process them. I mean, it makes sense that the experiences we had in high school would, if not shape who we turn out to as adults, like at least, like you said, kind of be like buried. And I feel like it's not a surprise that in therapy, I talk a lot about like things in high school and when I was younger first, as opposed to like adult situations, because you don't really know how to handle them and you might think that they're just okay. And then it's not until you become like a fully fledged, capital A adult that you're like, holy shit, this was all pretty messed up. Like, I get where you would want to write about those things. Like, was this, I guess like where did this idea initially come from? Was it like, did you have not great experiences? Were you on a speech team? Like, where did this all sort of start baking?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's like, I've said, I mean, basically, to be quite honest, like, my name is Tim Murphy and the storyteller's name is Tip Murray.
Yeah.
It's blatantly auto fiction. I should say the part that's set in the 80s is, I mean, that's all basically like memoir,
Yeah.
and what what the coach says to Tip is, verbatim what a teacher said to me,
Hmm.
which was, why are you such a screaming homosexual? Like, you need
Yeah.
to pull yourself together and like tone it down, which, I remember to this day. I was not one at a loss for words. You can ask
Hmm.
anyone who's known me my whole life.
Yeah.
I was a very mouthy kid, but I just remember being stunned into silence,
Hmm.
like, because it wasn't, you know, other kids, would call me a faggot all the time.
Yeah.
But they were kids. I expected it from them.
Hmm.
And this was the early and mid 80s. There were no anti-bullying programs, or, words hurt programs, or, we're all
Yeah.
special. And, but to be taken aside, I mean, he pulled me aside privately to say
Hmm.
this to me. And I remember walking out like so stunned, like feeling so exposed, so seen in the worst way,
Yeah.
and this was also by a teacher that I didn't expect it from this teacher,
Hmm.
because this teacher was, I felt kind of literary and intellectual, and not
Hmm.
a jock teacher. Like, we had a lot of teachers that they basically were just teaching there to coach the sports teams.
Yep. Same.
Yeah, I mean, typical
Uh-huh.
typical middle class public high school. So, uh I'm sorry, I lost my own train of thought. What was the question?
And no, you're
Oh, yeah,
honestly,
yeah, like, where did it come from?
yeah.
So, yeah, it definitely came from personal experience, but it also came from, uh a few years ago. I met up with two friends from high school who I literally had not seen since graduation day,
Hmm.
and we shared notes on, what the experience was like. And I left, and it was one of them was gay and one was Jewish, and in a town that was not very Jewish.
Hmm.
um and I was surprised to hear from her, like, how much verbal shit she got,
Yeah.
for being Jewish. It made me think about, God, there were a tiny sprinkling of kids who were not white in my high
Hmm.
school. Tiny, tiny, like less than 1% probably. And I mean, she was white, she was Jewish, but for the first time I was like, oh, I mean, high school was hell for me. What was it like for them?
Hmm.
You know? And that the book started spinning up from there. And also to a point we were talking about, I left this meetup with these two friends feeling so weirdly bruised, like it really upset me how much these memories still hurt.
Hmm.
I thought I was supposed to be past them. I was like 50 by this point. And I sort of walked away like, whoa, that was years of abuse, you
Hmm.
know? And so the novel, it kind of started spinning out from that. I started thinking a lot about what would people say, like if you caught up with people years later and asked them if they remembered that they said this or did that, what would they say? Would they not remember? Would they feign not remembering? Would
Hmm.
they cop to it and say, I'm so sorry, I've changed since then? Like it just got me thinking, and flip and vice versa too. I mean, what are the things that I've said or done, to people, friends, etc., that I just tossed off but that they never forgot.
Yeah.
So it all started like spinning out of that. And also, I quite honestly, the book was also like a blatant attempt to just write like a smaller, more commercial, accessible book than my last two books, which are like
Hmm.
twice the size of this one, and they're big. They're set against like big historical backdrops,
Yeah.
and I just wanted to try to write like a book, quote, a book club book, you
Yeah.
know.